Yeah. Oh, that sounds great.
I can tell you, I slept like a baby, and I slept in at 9 o'clock. How was yours?
Similar. I got to see my sister in Jersey, in a new house that she has in Jersey City, 4 bedrooms. Saw my nephew.
The time is now 6:37 or 6:38 actually. I'm going to allow 1 or 2 more minutes as people are still trickling in. And we'll start in like 2 more minutes, okay? 2-minute warning. Thank you. And I would like for the people to be here. Now, who is this? Laura? Okay.
Hey Nancy, how are you, darling? How's the baby? What?
Start our public session, and I would like to welcome everyone to Community Board 3 November's meeting of 2018. Welcome all new people that are joining us for the first time, and welcome people that are returning again, members of the community, members of the community board as full board members, and visitors. Thank you all for coming out tonight on this wintry night. We appreciate your presence. And so I'm going to open up for, my name is Alicia Lewis Coleman. I'm the chair of CB3 currently. And we're going to open up tonight's meeting with our public session. So you have 2 minutes to speak on your topic. Please respect the mic. I ask that everyone honor the 2-minute rule. If you feel yourself going a little over the time, you will be giving a warning. And then I will ask you to please release the microphone into the next person's hands. As for our speakers tonight, we have a few. And if you haven't had an opportunity to fill in for a sign-in sheet to speak, the time is now closed to speak. Once I have the papers in my hand, it is 6:40, sorry. It's time for us to close that part of the public speaking. Okay. The first speaker will be Scott Young. Please come forward when you hear your name to the microphone. Yes. And you have 2 minutes, sir.
Hi, everyone. My name is Scott. I'm here from Citizens Committee for New York City. We are a nonprofit that gives micro grants of $500 to $3,000 to resident-led, volunteer-led, community-based groups who want to improve their quality of life in their neighborhood. So our grantees are doing everything from community gardens and after-school programs and environmental projects, really anything they think will help each other. But the whole point is that we don't tell them what to do. They tell us what they want to do, and we give them the grant. So I'm just going to leave a couple of cards out in front. Our grant application deadline is January 21st, 2019. If you have an idea, please apply. We want to fund you. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Ryan Gilliam.
Hi, I'm Ryan Gillum. I'm the Executive Director of FAB, and I want to make an announcement about a program that we're starting with University Settlement. So we're launching the first Lower East Side Community Culture Council, and we're recruiting applicants. So this is a paid position that meets monthly, that is open to any resident of the Lower East Side or East Village, and it's about receiving training and also programming, for arts programming in the community that you feel is meaningful to the community. The priority is for NYCHA residents, but anyone is open to apply. It's a very simple application, and it's due January 4th, and I'm happy to answer more questions or give you a flyer. There are also some flyers out front.
Thank you. The next speaker is Paul. I'm sorry, sir. I don't. Feuerstein. Thank you, sir.
LaShawn, who's the next speaker.
Okay, and LaShawn.
Together?
LaShawn, you can come on. Is Rashawn? LaShawn.
Hi, my name is Paul Feuerstein. I'm the CEO of Barrier Free Living. This is LaShawn Gallman, who is the Chief Operating Officer of Barrier Free Living. Community Board 3 has been our home since we were incorporated in 1981. We started out in a storefront Avenue A in First Houses. We moved to 270 East 2nd Street down the road when we opened the first not-for-profit shelter in the homeless system in New York City, specifically for severely disabled homeless individuals. And LaShawn was the director of that program for many years before we closed recently. He can speak a little bit about that program.
Yes, we provided services for disabled homeless New Yorkers. We had to close the program April 30th of this year due to some issues dealing with DHS. We're looking to build a building in the current site. We have a 4-story building at 270 East 2nd Street. We're looking to demolish that building and build a 13-story building to provide support. Too low? That's better? Okay. We're looking to demolish our 4-story building on East 2nd Street to develop a 13-story building with supportive housing with a mixed population of survivors of domestic violence, families and singles, and severely disabled nursing home diverted tenants from the community.
So for 27 years, we were providing services. We placed over 700, close to 750 severely disabled people in permanent housing, and most of them stuck. Most of them stayed in their housing. We had one of the best records of keeping people in home and permanent housing once they left us. For 32 years, we have been serving disabled victims of domestic violence. For a while, our program at 270 2nd Street was sort of our ad hoc shelter for women who were victims of domestic violence until we opened our own shelter someplace else in a confidential location, which we've been operating now for 13 years. What we learned was that many of the people we work with are in need of supportive housing. We have applied for Empire State Supportive Housing Initiative support. We're doing 74 units, 44 for survivors of domestic violence, 30 for the individuals we served in the past who are nursing home eligible, actually coming from nursing homes. And we have invited the community to identify individuals from the Lower East Side who are now in nursing homes for lack of affordable, accessible housing, because we would like to accommodate them as well. Is our 4 minutes up?
Well, you're 2 minutes.
Our 2 minutes is up? Okay. Does that mean we get
2 more minutes?
2 more minutes? Okay. This community has been very important to us. It's been our home for a very long time. And the reason we closed was because for 12 years of Mr. Bloomberg's administration, every request we had for capital improvements, to repair joists that were going bad, to repair anything, all of it was denied. And by the time Mr. de Blasio came to be our mayor, and we talked to the commissioner of DHS, he asked us to do an engineering survey. It was going to cost $4.4 million just to fix up the old building well enough to run it for another 25 years. And the city said, no, we'd rather you built to as big a building as we could do in that space to do permanent housing so that we could be part of the mayor's plan for affordable, accessible housing in New York City.
And we'll be looking to tap into nursing homes to find candidates. So if there are candidates in the community or people that you know that are currently in nursing homes that cannot exit nursing home without permanent housing, will be opening up, so we're looking to make that happen. We're also working with Visiting Nurse Association of Staten Island, who has a nursing home transition and diversion program. They also work with getting vouchers, a waiver program, so people can have affordable housing within the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Harry Bubbins.
Hello, everyone. Thanks a lot. I'm Harry Bubbins with Greenwich Village Society for Historic Preservation, and we are here to speak in support of the East Village Special District that's being considered by the Economic Development Committee and the board. We are very excited and encouraged by the progress that's being made on this very innovative proposal that's been on the table for some years to work to preserve the small independent retail characters of the neighborhood. So I want to encourage the board to keep moving, and we are here to support that. I have a joint letter from GVSHP and East Village Community Coalition and Historic Districts Council supporting the special district. And in particular, I won't go into the details, but I'll share it with the chair, and I emailed it to the district manager already, just to look closely at certain avenues to make sure that the details of the proposal accommodate the special characteristics, especially of 2nd Avenue and Avenue D. There's also a number of business owners along the 2nd Avenue corridor that are very keen on the treatment of 2nd Avenue in the proposal. Tom from Veselka, Tom Burchard from Veselka couldn't make it today. Otto Cedeno from Otto's Tacos as well are supportive of looking closely at 2nd Avenue, as our joint letter indicates in more detail. I also have here letters from Pamela at Dinosaur Hill, from Crystal at Theater for the New City, from Bonnie Slotnick of Bonnie Slotnick Cookbooks, and Marilyn Appleberg of 10th Street and Stuyvesant Street Block Associations. They are all supportive of the special district, and in particular, hopefully the board and the committee will be looking closely at the recommendations regarding 2nd Avenue and Avenue D in particular. So thanks a lot, and we look forward to being a partner in the progress on this. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Michael Morano, sorry.
Hi everyone, I'm Michael Marino from Friends of Corlears Hook Park. I just wanted to quickly announce we have our final event of 2018 coming up, and it's our holiday event. We're calling it Festivus for the rest of us this year. If you're a Seinfeld fan, you'll get that. Anyway, it's December 9th, and we invite everyone to come to the park. We're going to be decorating the park not only with ornaments in the trees, but also blow up dreidels and other items, and there'll be music, and then the tree will be lit at 4 o'clock. So come on out, there's flyers in the lobby, and we hope to see you there.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Olympia? Yes.
Hi. I'm a member of the New York City Artists Coalition, and 2 months ago, I was here to announce the kickoff of the listening tour of the Office of Nightlife. The New York City Artists Coalition advocates for the safety and preservation of grassroots cultural spaces. And so as part of that campaign, last year we were involved in the establishment of the Office of Nightlife and the Cabaret Law repeal. And I wanted to let you know that tomorrow there's going to be the last official stop of the listening tour of the Office of Nightlife in Manhattan. It's going to be hosted at the Town Hall at 123 West 43rd Street. So if you didn't get the chance to go to Brooklyn, Bronx, Staten Island, and Queens, tomorrow is your last chance to meet down. And in general, you can find information about this office and future ways to engage with them at newyorkcity.gov/nightlife, or email them at nightlife@media.nyc.gov. And I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow there. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Olympia. Valentina?
Hi, my name is Valentina Jones. I'm here on behalf of the Lower East Side Power Partnership, and I am very, very upset. In terms of the Two Bridges LSRD, the Lower East Side Power Partnership sent in written comments, and our comment was basically based on, because the towers will rise right next to the existing buildings, about 100 Section 8 apartments will lose their windows facing the East River. So what the Lower East Side Power Partnership asks for is that any proposed buildings be at a distance from the lands into apartments in order to allow present residents access to all their windows and the accompanying sunlight and ventilation. I don't think that's asking too much. But the final environmental impact statement came out, and to them it seems that is asking too much that you can open all your windows. So what they stated, chapter 27, page 103, in every habitable room where a window is lost, there would still be an existing window which satisfies the legal light and air requirement. So these people are going to be looking out their window to a building, and they will not be able to open their window. Okay, 100 families, and this is planned. This isn't some mistake. This is planned. So just so you can see, these are the plans. And I think a lot of us have looked at them and wasn't sure exactly what we were looking at. So let me just quickly show you. This building and this building, this is lands in too. That's what's there right now. This back here is the proposed building, and this is the proposed building. This actually looks like some kind of add-on, that they added a building on just to eliminate these people's window. Some kind of way looking at this, I almost think they want us to complain so that this can be a concession. This is ridiculous. So, I'm done? Okay. Thank you very much, but I just think this is absolutely ridiculous. This has no regard or respect for these people, no regard for dignity or the quality of life. Think about if you would like to look out of your window in your apartment and see a building, and so you couldn't open your window. Thank you.
Thank you, Val. Thank you, Val. Okay, Laura.
Hi, Laura Sewell from the East Village Community Coalition. I've been rather vocal about the struggles of the businesses on 14th Street around the construction and the L train shutdown. So I just wanted to let you all know that the sidewalk there is now open between Avenue A and First Avenue and Avenue A. And the agencies, CB3 electeds did a walkthrough. The conditions are very much improved there, so you can actually walk all the way across, and that they will eventually, hopefully, benefit from having a subway entrance there. But meanwhile, they are suffering. So we're just asking that if you could go out of your way to go to the LES coffee shop and some of the other businesses on that street, so that they will continue to be there for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura. Okay, this concludes our public session for tonight. We will now open up our elected officials reports. Mayor de Blasio's office. Gotta ask. Public Advocate Letitia James. Adam in the house? Nope. Scott Stringer's office. Michael? Nope. Borough President Gale Brewer's office. Brian. Let us all welcome Brian Lewis. He's our new member of the Manhattan Borough President's office, and he will be here to share with us every month.
So hi again, my name is Brian Lewis, the new community liaison for Gale Brewer's office. I have business cards with me, but in case you're interested. Oh, close to the mic, I'm sorry. I'm kind of new to this. My number, I have business cards for later, but my number is 212-669-8774. My email is blewis@manhattanbp.nyc.gov. I have another piece of news from our office, which is that we have a new director of community affairs, former council member Rosie Mendez. Yes, I had a sneaking suspicion that's not news to a lot of people here, but anyways, so we'll move on to some announcements from our office. Specifically regarding CB3 and the East River Resiliency Project, the latest revision to that. So we do understand that our office understands the concern raised by some community members regarding recent revision. to the East River Resiliency Plan. So we're dismayed that despite many years of meetings between the Resiliency Project and the community surrounding the previous Resiliency Plan, which was like a berm towards the FDR side of the park, it's only been in the past few months that this major revision was released to the community. So right now we are drafting a letter to the Mayor's Office of Recovery and Resiliency and other agencies expressing our concern, recommending serious consideration of alterations to the resiliency plan that will not result in a drastic loss of this park, which is of course treasured and important to the community and to the city at whole. On that note, I'd like to also mention that DDC has a interactive community meeting December the 10th at 7 p.m. at Gouverneur Hospital. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Gouverneur. I'm a little new.
Okay.
Alrighty, so moving right along. Do I have a 2-minute limit on this?
Yep.
Oh, I do. Okay, well, moving very quickly. L-Train, we have an L-Train task force. We had our meeting today. We had representatives from NYPD, MTA, Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment, and we discussed issues of enforcement and permitting during the shutdown of the L-Train tunnel. Boys Club meeting on November 16th. Our office held a meeting with the executive body of Boys Club to discuss plans to sell their building because our position is that their building should remain in the hands of a nonprofit, hopefully, and we would also hope to see that Boys Club community programs would remain in the neighborhood. El Clemente, we recognize there's been some struggles with the management there, but we are pleased to see that they're being worked through. We have reached out to the Department of Cultural Affairs and other agencies on this matter. We do believe that El Clemente is a valuable arts institution. Regarding CB term limits, we do have a memo that will be released very shortly to all CB members explaining how this new ballot measure that passed will affect your term limits. Broadly speaking, more or less everybody has at least 8 years. It's 10 for the 2020 cohort. Come see me if that's confusing. The CB member application is live on our website, which I don't know the exact URL of off the top of my head, but please come and see me. We've also passed a resolution in City Council regarding proposed FCC rules, along with co-sponsored by Francisco Moya, calling on the FCC to reject new limits on local cable franchise agreements because we do believe that local stations such as Manhattan Neighborhood Network is a really important vehicle for providing media education in the community. We also are going to be presenting tomorrow a resolution co-sponsored by Councilmember Traeger, which will mandate the regular reporting of nutritional education curriculum to be implemented in the city's public schools and reported because we believe that that is a priority for our office. You may remember that we invested heavily in hydroponics education. Senior food bags. Time good? Okay, wow. Senior food bags. So we're rounding out the season for our senior food bag program where we work with Grow NYC and others to provide seniors with $8 bags of fresh produce delivered to local senior centers and NORCS. We will soon be issuing a report on that year's program. Capital grants, so the information sessions have passed, but if you are interested in learning more about our capital grants program, please do set up an appointment with our budget staff. We're happy to help you out with that. We're also rolling out our cultural tourism grant process. These grants will help fund promotional and marketing efforts for nonprofit and cultural organizations. Further information is found on our website. We do have a diaper drive. We're kicking that off. It's especially important because, of course, you can't bring a child to daycare without them, which thus enables people with toddlers or babies to work. We will be working with Girl Scouts and Food Bank NYC and others on this drive. Let's see. Upcoming events. So December 11th, we'll be having another one of our homeowners and tenants enrollment events. These are really important. Oh, okay. Well, come and see me about that. It's also in the back. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Okay. We'll talk. Nydia Velazquez's office. Is Iris here? Or someone to represent Nydia's office? No? Okay. Carolyn Maloney's office. And after that is Yuh-Line Niou's office. Okay.
Good evening. I'm Victor from Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney's office. Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney, author of SAVE Act and the Campus Accountability and Safety Act, released the following statement in reaction to the proposed rule changes to Title IX from Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos. that would rescind Obama-era guidance on campus sexual assault. Quote, this proposal seems to intended to make college campus safe spaces to commit sexual assault and harassment instead of safe spaces to learn. By narrowing the definition of what qualifies as sexual harassment and raising the bar for how assault claims will be judged, fewer people will report assault and harassments, schools will become more dangerous, and more survivors will not have the equal access to education that they're entitled. Congress must not let this proposal become a reality, said Congresswoman Maloney. These and other issues can be found in this month's Community Board 3 report.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Monica from State Assemblymember Niou's office. So we've had a few exciting things going on in the community this last month. We held a fire and safety workshop in collaboration with New York City Public Schools and FDNY. And this has been Yuh-Line's focus in order to prevent, with the winter coming along and space heaters, decorations, to have children really participate and engage with their parents about fire safety. We also brought some batteries so you can replace with your fire detectors. So they're in the back. You can grab some, take them, and replace them. They suggest that you replace them every time you change the time. But in case you missed it, there's some back there. We also held a mobile MTA bus event where we brought the mobile MTA bus to one of the developments in order to have seniors apply for reduced MetroCard. So we helped them with the application, whether it was in translation or just letting them know what documents they needed to bring, to refill their MetroCards if they needed to, or purchase new MetroCards alone. In addition, since it's flu season, we also collaborated with Gouverneur Health, and at Hamilton Madison House, we did a free flu shot event. So hope some of you have gotten your flu shots. And lastly, we did a SCREE workshop where we helped our seniors apply, know what they needed in order to apply for SCREE Senior Citizens Rent Increase Exemption. Lastly, one reminder, which I reminded you last time, is we have our annual legislative and budgetary town hall. Please, please, please add it to your calendars. February 3rd, it will be held again at Manny Cantor Center. If you have any questions, we'll be back there. Don't forget to pick up our CB report.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Next, we have Deborah Glick's office and Harvey Epstein's office.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mike Schweinsberg, and I'm proud to represent Assemblymember Harvey Epstein. In this month's report, you will find Harvey's comments, his optimistic viewpoint on the coming legislative session, now that we, for the first time in over 100 years, have a strong majority in Albany. He speaks of his support for fair affairs, his concerns about the East Side coastal resiliency, and on the back, please note the upcoming December 10th community engagement meeting. We recommend that everyone weigh in on there. That plan is not as it should be. He speaks about his strong opposition to Amazon, which doesn't directly affect us, but affects the whole city. And then speaks about something that he initiated under an abbreviated time frame. Late October, early November, Harvey decided it'd be a good idea to try to get some turkeys for less fortunate families to put on their table. And in that very, abbreviated time form, was able to provide nearly 600 turkeys to low-income families throughout the Lower East Side. Thank you. But, going into it without any foreknowledge, We know next year and every other year, thereby establishing a new Lower East Side tradition, we'll just expand on that. So look forward to that in the coming years. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you. It's really nice. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm going to go back up. Comptroller Scott Stringer's office. Michael's here.
Hi, everyone. Mike Stinson from Comptroller Scott Stringer's office. Tomorrow night, I know many of you are going to be very busy in Midtown at a town hall, but we also have a town hall a block and a half away from that one. So it's tenants' rights, a tenant advocacy town hall. It's going to be at the Public Library on 42nd and 5th Avenue. We'd love to have you. Ours starts at 6:30, so if you want to come on by, we'll be there till about 8 o'clock. And secondly, I wanted to announce, it's a little bit early, but I want to get this out to as many Lower East Siders as possible. Our 2019 summer internship program, I have some flyers. They are paid internships in our office. You don't have to be interested in policy or politics. We have internships in audit, policy, obviously, communications, budget. So if you know of any college students that are interested, they have to be in school, so they have to be sophomore, junior, senior, or graduate students, and they are paid. Their undergrad gets paid between $13 and $15.50 based on the college year level. Grad students and law students make between $16 and $23. So I have some flyers at the front table. If you know of anyone interested, please share it with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Okay. We're expecting Brian, but Venus is here. Okay. Brian Kavanagh. And after that, Senator Brad Hoylman.
Hello, everyone. My name is Venus Galarza-Mullins. I'm from State Senator Brian Kavanagh's office. Just some few points. Obviously, the New York State Senate is now a Democratic majority, so a lot of the things that we've been fighting for many years that have been blocked, we're hoping to push through in January, such as election reform, campaign finance reform, gun violence prevention, and NYCHA state funding on a more consistent, regular basis. Our office is also aware that a number of NYCHA developments have had a lot of heat and hot water complaints. Please call our office directly, and we can try to help push that along. We've already are working with NYCHA regarding a number of developments that have been having a lot of heat and hot water issues in the last few days. For those who do not live in NYCHA, please know that your landlord is required to provide heat and hot water between the hours of 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. If the outside temperature falls below 55 degrees, the inside temperature must be at least 68, and between 10 p.m. and 6 p.m., inside temperature must be 62, and there's no outside temperature requirement for that. Outside, as well as here in the front, we have a parent resource guide, so that's a number of organizations with contact information that may be useful to you as parents. There's also some great organizations in there, even if you are not parents, that help with senior needs as well as other kinds of services that are provided. I hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving for those who celebrated, and happy Hanukkah for those that are celebrating it next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Venus. Hi, Carolyn. Okay.
Hi, Caroline Wexelbaum from State Senator Brad Hoylman's office. As Venus said, the Democrats are now in the majority in the state Senate, which is really good for us. So now the Assembly, the Senate, and the governorship are all Democratic, so hopefully there will be some progressive legislation on the docket, so look out for that. Also, as Mike Stinson said, there will be a tenant town hall tomorrow night. I'm so sorry it conflicts with the nightlife town hall, but the good news is, like Mike said, they're a block and a half away from each other. My understanding is that the nightlife town hall starts at 5:30. Our event doesn't start until 6:30, so you could go to both, presumably. So you can grab flyers for our event in the back. What's that?
No, she doesn't want to tell you.
Sorry, Susan.
This is on public television.
You can also pick up our board report in the back where we talk about Senator Hoylman's position on Amazon moving into the city, honoring Transgender Remembrance Day, which was last week, what Senator Hoylman did for Veterans Day. He talks about his position on MTA fare increases. He opposes them. And we also talk about just one other issue, air quality monitoring during the train shutdown. We had written a letter along with about 20 other federal, state, and local elected officials asking the MTA to install air quality monitors along the L train shutdown route, which they're going to do, which is great. It's real progress in the process. And I guess that's it. Any questions?
The air quality monitors in the trains?
It's along the route of the L train shutdown route. It's. I'm sorry?
Along the diesel bus routes?
Yes, yes. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Okay. Councilmember Margaret Chin's office, followed by Councilmember Carlina Rivera's office.
Hi everyone, good evening. Marian Guetta from Councilmember Chin's office. Just a few updates from our end. 6 years after the anniversary of Superstorm Sandy, it's very clear that we are still working on ensuring that we have enough funding for resiliency upgrades and to making sure that lower Manhattan communities are centered in the conversation about solutions. So a lot of other offices have mentioned concerns regarding the East Coast Resiliency Project and need for better community input. But in addition to that, Councilmember Chin also earlier this month provided comment to the United States Army Corps of Engineers regarding the scope of another study, the New York, New Jersey Harbor Coastal Protection Study, and asked that the federal government conduct an environmental study assessing the impacts of one of their proposed alternatives, which would mean a regional storm surge barrier on the New York, New Jersey coast, and see those impacts on our estuary, which is very vulnerable and open to major ecological change. She also included in her comment the importance of addressing the ongoing need to fund housing, transportation, and waste infrastructure in the lower Manhattan community to prepare for the next storm. Just last week, Councilmember Chin held a hearing on mental wellness in older adults, co-hosted with the Committee on Mental Health in New York City Council, which was largely inspired by the sad news of 2 seniors just in 1 year who took their lives in one development in our district. So she's co-sponsored with the chair of the Committee on Mental Health Intro 1180, which would require caseworkers at senior centers to receive mental health first aid training for older adults. And this would ensure that more seniors get the mental health care and the culturally competent mental health care that they need. And we just want to share one reminder to folks just to piggyback off what Bina said, especially as days go colder. This is specifically to resident leaders. We want to let you know that we are a resource. I mean, just today, One Night to Development had a campus-wide heat hot water outage due to a single contractor bursting a pipe. Please note that we are always here to help. At the end of our newsletter, we have a little flyer. If you want a digital copy of that flyer, I am happy to share that with you. Feel free to just touch base with me at the end of this. And just one last reminder, this year 2020 budget cycle is not yet begun, but just want to let you know that as budget director, it's never too early to start collecting requests from the community for capital and expense requests. So if you are a nonprofit, cultural institution, volunteer group, resident leader, school, anything, please reach out to me. And I want to make sure that I have your contact so that I can keep you on the loop once the application portal goes live. Thank you. Any questions? All right.
Thank you, Mary.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Sheila Rodriguez, and I am here on behalf of the Office of Councilwoman Carlina Rivera, Councilwoman of City Council District 2. So I know that this is repetitive, but one of the things that we have been working on for the past 2 weeks has been public housing and private housing, no heat complaints. We are finding that in a lot of non-public housing buildings, They're building-wide outages, and they're not coming from notorious bad actors. They're coming from smaller scale landlords. So if you know anyone in the community that is experiencing these outages, please have them contact our office, and we will do our best to follow up with HPD. As well as if it's public housing, we will definitely follow up with Nydia and their team. In addition to that, we have some legislative updates. Last month, the City Council voted to pass Intro 781, a critical bill that Carlina introduced to fill in gaps in the NYPD Special Victims Division of case management system, and provide fair oversight of who is assessing the system and for what reasons. On October 31st, Carlina also introduced a new piece of legislation, Intro 1202, which may be of interest to Community Board 3. We've had many complaints throughout the district about people capturing pigeons. Intro 1202 comes after a number of troubling instances in which individuals have forcefully removed pigeons from New York City streets in order to transport them to Pennsylvania, where they can be legally shot and killed for sport. So hopefully, Intro 1202 will prohibit the capture and trafficking of wild birds, and it would increase penalty for this crime to a misdemeanor, with fines up to $1,000 or jail time for up to 1 year. So Carlina's calling on her colleagues to sign the bill and end the treatment of these birds. Lastly, on October 22nd, Carlina joined her colleagues on the Council Small Business Committee for its 9-hour hearing on the Small Business Survival Act, which is a piece of legislation that would create new protections for small businesses. And it has awaited passage for over 30 years. The bill, which Carlina co-sponsored upon its introduction earlier this year, would require landlords to tell commercial tenants 180 days before their leases expires whether or not they intend to renew it, or state a valid reason why they don't. It would also enable a tenant to secure a 10-year lease and empower tenants to demand arbitration if they find rent increases exorbitant. And with that, I would like to end. If you have any questions, I will be in the back.
No, but I would like to thank Carlina, because I did hear from various people in the district that they were invited to a Thanksgiving dinner, and many people were not going to be able to have a meal if it was not for that dinner. So please let her know that we thank her very much for that.
Thank you. I know that I joined and volunteered at PSA 4. They had a Thanksgiving gratitude luncheon for public housing residents, for senior victims of domestic violence, the Young Explorer program. So it was really nice. I encourage everyone, next year, even this Christmas holiday, to do an act of service is very fulfilling.
Thank you. Thank you, Venus. Okay, that concludes our elected official reports for the evening. Now we're going to go into our roll call and approval of the minutes for September 2018.
David Adams. What was that? Abstain. Yaron Alman. Jesse Beck. Yes. Dominic Burke. Dominic. Lee Berman. Yes. Victoria Barrios. Victoria. Lisa Burrs. Carlin Chan? Yes. Jonathan Chu? Mi-Fong Chang? David Crane? Yes. Paul DiRienzo? Eric Diaz? Yes. Daniel Dixon? Yes. Dean Johnson? Yes. Alistair Economakis? Yes. Shirley Fennessy? Yes. David Ford? Ryan Gillum? Yes. Deborah Glass? Deborah?
She's up.
Herman Hewitt? Yes. Trevor Holland? Linda Jones? Yes. Valentina Jones? Megan Joy? Lisa Kaplan? Olympia Kazi? Joseph Kearns? May Lee? Alicia Lewis Coleman?
Yes.
Luis Lopez? Luis? Michael Marino? Jeremy Markman? Antonio Martinez? Alexander Militano? Nancy Ortiz? Carolyn Ratcliffe? Damaris Reyes? Richard Ropiak? Robin Chattel? Larissa Scheinberg? Clint Smeltzer, yes. Anisha Stephen? Sandra Struther? Josephine Velez? Rodney Washington? Kathleen Webster?
Okay, thank you. Now we'll start with our board reports. Board Chair's report. I just wanted to wish everyone a happy belated Thanksgiving. I hope your holiday was really festive and full of fun and family and however you spend it. And today is Giving Tuesday. For those that don't know what that is, on Facebook, they are open up for many of the organizations that are in need of donations, and I believe that many of you represent different organizations and charities, and so I just ask all of you to be mindful of Giving Tuesday. I'm not saying any names, but just keep that in mind. There are many organizations that are in need this time of year. During the full board's report tonight, during one of our I'm opening up the floor to our parliamentarian, David, who will share some tidbits about CB3 and information that is a need to know, because there's a lot of misunderstanding going around about what the community board does and what powers we have. We don't have any magical powers. We're not elected officials. So, and David's going to give some information on parliamentary procedures. I'm sorry, parliamentary procedures. I'm sorry, parliamentary procedures. But I will be next month sharing with you little information about CB3 and what that means. I know Susan did in the past. She introduced a little bit about what the CB does. And I think it's just important for us to just go back to those informational sessions, because a lot of us really don't know what this community board does. And many of us that are new on the community board don't even know what the community board does. But you're here, and we're grateful because we represent our whole entire community, not just ourselves. And what else? There's a lot going on in the community board, and I'm going to allow the chairs to share and their various reports, because I don't want to repeat anything over and over again. And so that being said, I want Nancy to please come up and share a little bit about the holiday celebration.
Oh, okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Nancy Ortiz, and I am the proud recipient of putting together the holiday dinner, Community Board 3. This year we're doing it a little bit different. I'm sure many of you got the invitation, and we're doing potluck 10 dishes only, because we can't overwhelm the restaurant with too many dishes. So we've decided to go with 10, and those 10 people who do the potluck do not have to pay the donation. But you have to let me know what you're cooking, if you're bringing anything, to make sure that we don't have like 10 rice dishes. We want a little variety here. So 10 potlucks, and then the rest is a $15 donation. So I've already received 2 responses on the potluck, so we're down to 8. If anyone wishes to give their donation this evening, I'm sitting right over here. I'll be more than happy to take it. And it will be on December, okay, well, I'm trying to remember the date.
20th.
December 20th at Donnybrook on the corner of Clinton and Stanton Street. So if you have any questions, I'm right here. Thank you. Yes.
The elected officials, yeah.
Did anyone here not receive an electronic invitation via email?
Full board members, elected officials. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
Susan? District manager's report.
Okay, thank you. First, I'd like to tell you about some information on our website that's very timely. Department of Transportation presented their proposed city bike infill plan at the committee this month. And this is a plan to greatly expand the city bike locations, which will give people an alternative during the L train shutdown. So the information on our website is both a map of where they're planning to have additional locations or expand existing locations. And you can go on the map, on the website, it's a click on the city bike infill draft plan. And then when you get to the second page, you can either go on the map and suggest additional locations, or there's an email address if you want to give a comment about an existing location. That is only up through the remainder of this week. So if you have any thoughts about additional locations, please go on the website this week. Just other general reports. You may have read that crime is up in the 7th precinct. It's actually been down in 5 and 9, but it's up in the 7th. This is generally mostly unattended property and grand larceny. A lot of it has to do with city bike people leaving bags unattended. Some are robberies on construction sites. And the precinct has put an additional 2-person post on Orchard and Ludlow. They're trying to do 4 people on the weekend when they can. Also, the SLA has been sending notices to the precincts about the licensed businesses that want extended hours on New Year's Eve. And the 7th precinct has actually been responding negatively to these notices. I don't know how much weight that will have with the SLA. We'll find out. Code Blue is in effect for the homeless. That's when the temperature goes below 32. Outreach workers will visit homeless to see if they seem safe from the cold. They will forcibly remove them if they seem like they're in danger. So I want to ask people to please either call 311 or use the 311 app to report homeless people in need of services if they see anyone they think might be in danger. A lot of people, even when it gets just below 32, if they're ill particularly, they're very vulnerable. I don't know if you've been reading about the nightlife meeting on the blogs for tomorrow night, but I would like to clarify the Nightlife Advisory Board and the Office of Nightlife, which I think generally is not understood. I was appointed to the Nightlife Advisory Board. The Office of Nightlife is a totally different thing. It is a city office with a staff and a budget. It's different than the advisory board. They were both created by the same piece of legislation, but they're different entities. The Nightlife Office of Nightlife conducts outreach, reviews information on complaints and violations. It serves as a liaison between establishments, residents, and government. And the town halls are part of the outreach by this office. They will assist nightlife establishments with their many licenses and permits. They advise mayor and agencies. And their recommendations are due in an annual report 18 months after the formation. The board is a different, separate advisory board. The board has elected its own chair, vice chair, and secretary, has no budget, no staff, and they will make recommendations regarding New York City laws, rules, regulations, and policies to address common issues and trends. And those recommendations are also due 18 months after the law was created, the entity. So I have notices here about the town hall. I will be attending as a resident, just like everyone else, and I urge both residents and businesses to attend. The half marathon, the Roadrunners Half Marathon, will return to Lower East Side on March 17th. They will come before the community board in January when they have a definite route. Last year there were some issues with people trying to attend church services and not being able to cross the street. They are trying to address it in different ways. There was a preliminary meeting with the precinct, roadrunners, and church representation, and the community board, and then there will be follow-up, and they will come to the community board transportation committee. For the L-Train Task Force, there's a Borough President Task Force meeting today. We were not able to get a commitment for the MTA One Police Plaza to attend community board district service cabinet meetings, which would allow the agencies to respond in a coordinated manner locally, but we'll keep trying. And I'm happy to say there's a new phone service in the office. I haven't had voicemail in a couple of months, so I have voicemail now. I not only have voicemail, it is transcribed and sent to my email, so I will get all messages. And I think that's it, unless there's any questions. Richard?
On the expanded city bike location, are they going to be only for the duration of the L-train construction, or are they going to be permanent?
David, I don't think they said, did they?
I'm sorry, what? No.
The expanded L-train. I don't believe they said whether they would stay after the L-train construction. Do you remember?
Which would stay after?
The expanded city bikes.
That's unclear to me as well. I believe that they will, but at the end I asked them about, are they coordinating? I believe that the expansion is permanent.
Okay, Lisa?
I just looked on the map, and it looks like they're not proposing new stations.
They are.
3 new ones, and all the other ones are expansions.
Oh, okay.
Correct.
But most of them are just elongations of their current stations.
And there may be more than the 3 proposed already. They have 3 proposed, but by the time their final plan, there may be other new ones.
That aren't now on the map.
Particularly if people suggest them, because I know 2 things. I know they're looking for more stations because some have been turned down, and I know they are contacting reps at Nydia Developments to talk about infill at Nydia Developments. Carolyn?
Is there an expansion of bike lanes as well? Can't hear the question.
Expansion of bike
lanes as well?
There are on 13th and 14th, 12th and 13th Street, right, David? The expanded bike lanes.
Yeah, and the expanded bike lanes?
And the landscape. Well, new bike lanes or
they're putting in bike lanes on 12th and 13th.
And Nancy has, but that's been planned for a while.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so I will say, Richard, the only complaints we've had in the office about city bikes is that there's not enough. Are the comments from the community that generally people want, they feel like there's not enough bikes and there's not enough transferring from station to station.
There is a continuing discussion between bike riders and senior citizens and the interaction between them. So I would like to recommend that the board and the transportation committee keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, I've actually been to 9th Precinct meetings in Village View where there are a number of people that are express a lot of concern about that. Should we keep going? What'd you say?
Yeah, we've, alongside our 2-way bike lane and the Roosevelt Park, we have persistently asked DOT to put deaf crossing signs and senior crossing signs to no avail. So it would be great to
We'll try again. Good. Thank you for reminding me.
And the little pump. Nancy and
So, we all know that Delancey Street is very delicate when it comes to bikers and pedestrians. The bikers are not very friendly getting on and getting off the bridge. So now that we're going to have more bike lanes and a high concentration of two-wheel traffic, how are we going to address the pedestrian crossing, and how are those two wheels not going to beat the crap out of the pedestrians?
So I can't address that in my report. It was addressed at the Transportation Committee a couple of times when they presented the plans. So I don't know if that's something that maybe David can tell you about, not my report.
Is it referring to Susan's report?
Yes. Quick question on the proposed new city bike dock.
The new
City bike dock. Is there a data where I can look up where the exact location where they're proposed?
So so my report was that if you go on our website, on the home page, it will say, I'll tell you exactly what it will say, City Bike Infill Draft Plan. And if you click on that, you will come to the map that shows every location.
Yeah, I missed that.
Okay. That's it?
That's it. Thank you, Susan. Okay, now we'll go into nominating committee, distribution of ballots, and election of officers, board officers.
These are the ballots. Just to reiterate who's running, there's no contested races. So it's everyone who's currently in an elected position. So for chairperson, Alicia Lewis Coleman, vice chair, David Ford, second vice chair, Nancy Ortiz, secretary, Clint Smeltzer, assistant secretary, Eric Diaz, and treasurer, Herman Hewitt. You have a choice to either vote for somebody or not to vote. So, but everyone must sign their ballot. Do you have any volunteers? Maybe people in here.
Yeah, so to be clear, make sure that it's your name at the bottom of the ballot, because they're not going to know everybody, the new members, for instance. So make sure that you're getting your ballot, and this is not a secret ballot, which is the point of this is. They don't get published in the city register or anything, but foilable.
So while the ballots are being distributed and collected, David is going to share some parliamentary procedure.
Yeah, so I had a few conversations about, well, what is discussion? When can you discuss this? When can you discuss that? And I thought about it. I've been doing parliamentary procedure too long, more than half my life. You know, when I was 25, I got into ACT UP. For 5 years, I was in a meeting of 500, 600 people, and we ran by Robert's rules every week. It's the only way that you can have a meeting of more than a dozen people and be effective. So let's think about, so I think I see the fundamental thing you have to understand in order to be able to use Robert's rules, and then everything just falls in place. But first think about how committees operate. The chair is often focusing the conversation. That's really what the chair kind of does at the committee. It's like, well, let's talk about this for now. Well, that's a good idea. Okay. Keep the ideas coming, and it's basically a conversation between fewer than 12 people. really fewer than 9 probably. There isn't a strong need to focus the conversation on one decision at a time, because you can sort of see all of the balls that are in the air when there's only 9 people talking, okay? This is the wrong way to run a meeting when you've got a lot of people. So to be efficient and democratic, it's one question at a time is being considered. And this is the fundamental thing that needs to be understood. When we are talking, we're not talking to each other. When we talk to the group, one person sort of addresses the chair, but you're really saying it for the whole organization to hear and the television cameras as well. You are really supposed to be saying, I am for or against the current question. So when we go into the business session, the committee reports are those are main motions. Those are the question that we're trying to decide on. Everything that is said, like when I'm standing here as the Transportation Committee Chairperson, everything that's said should be about the motions that came out of my committee, because those are what we are deciding on. And you really should be clear in your mind that you're supposed to be trying to convince the organization, all the other members, I want you to vote for this, or I want you to vote against this, and this is why. So, how do you make a change to, it's not being railroaded through. Whatever came out of committee is not being railroaded. The question is whether to approve this or not, but someone out there might say something about one of my geez, I can't think of something well on a lot of maybe we want a trial period for something. DOT's proposed something, the committee report says we're going to approve it, and someone has a good idea that really it ought to be a trial period, and then after 6 months they will evaluate whether to continue this or not. If that person is serious about this, they won't say, oh, I have this idea, really we should pilot it, blah, blah, blah. If you said that, you just wasted your turn. What you should do, if you really want the organization to decide yes or no on that, you present it as a question. And now you are refocusing the conversation from the moment your chair accepts your motion until the vote happens. You say, I move that we amend this motion to say, and therefore be it further resolved, pilot project. Say the exact words that you want to be modified into the motion. If someone says second, and if the chair says, I recognize that amendment, at that moment, the only thing that may be discussed is that amendment. That's the only question that is being discussed. You can't say, raise your hand, they call on you, and they say, oh, I'm in this other item. That is out of order. And I think I did that to someone last month. I apologize for that. I mean, I'm not the chair, but I think...
Just 30 seconds.
Okay, 30-second table, my motion.
Any committee board member has not received the ballot. Has anybody not handed in their ballot? Okay, thank you. I'll get it.
So I sort of feel like I'm rambling, but in a committee level, if the idea was good, it's evidently good, everyone evidently agrees because you can see their faces, and it just goes in to the motion that's being drafted. But when there's 50 people out here, focus the discussion on your question. And then after a couple comments, maybe there'll be a vote on the amendment. Everybody who's in favor of amending the motion, everybody who's opposed, it passes. Now the new main motion is the one that was just amended, and you continue debating on it. Someone may have another idea. They do another amendment. You can actually amend an amendment, but I don't want to get too complicated on you. The thing is, if you notice that the organization is drifting away from the question, don't yell out motion on the floor. There's a motion on the floor. That's just rude. There is a motion you can use, though. You can say, I call for the orders of the day. Robert's rules sounds like it's sometime in the middle of the 19th century because that's when it was. That's when it was codified. But anyway, just basically want to say, isn't there, orders of the day or just say point of order. That's really what to say. Point of order. Aren't we debating the amendment? And then the chair should go, yes, that's right. we're debating the amendment only for a few minutes here. Let's focus on that. In the end, there'll be a vote on the main motion, and in our case, it's a vote on the committee's list of motions, and then they get passed. So when a vote begins, it is too late to debate. Okay? I also did that last month, I believe, as well. It's like, once the vote begins, you can't debate any longer. You must just vote. There's a procedure to decide when to move from debating to voting. And you can stop the vote from happening if there's a majority at that moment. That's call the question. That's what call the question is for. The chair may just, of her own volition say, it sounds like there's no more debate. Shall we go to a vote? If no one offers to speak again, then we'll go straight to a vote there. If you still want to speak, you should raise your hand at that moment. I heard someone last month say, I move that we adopt what's on the, what the motion is. That's not in order. That is already the question that was being debated. What that person meant to do was to say, because they wanted to go to vote is what they wanted to do. They didn't want to begin debate. At committees, we often do things backwards. You get the whole thing drafted through people's ideas, and then someone says, I move that we adopt it, everyone votes yes or no. That's not what happens in a large body. The motion is already on the floor. If you want to go to a vote, you say, I call the question. If you say, I call the question, and okay, you do that when you're called on, by the way. You say, you get recognized, and then you say, I call the question. The chair should pretty much, someone should second it, but the chair will go, okay, the question's been called. We need to decide if we are done debating or not. This is a very democratic thing, and if you hear someone calling the question, you really should prick up your ears and think whether you've heard enough of debate, whether you want to speak more or not, or whether maybe you have something more to say that hasn't really been adequately said yet. In either case, you don't want to go to a vote yet, right? If you think the conversation's been going on for longer than necessary and you're ready to vote and you think everyone else should be as well, you should weigh this, by the way. You shouldn't, railroad something. But the chair will go, the question's been called. So all in favor of ending debate and going to an immediate vote, raise your hand. All who want to continue debate, raise your hand. Whichever side wins determines what happens next. So if the chair says, so we're going to a vote, at that point everyone needs to be silent, and we go straight to a roll call vote on the actual motion or the amendment. The amendment we usually do by raise of hands. If we're going to do a roll call vote, anyway, I hope I rambled too much. Don't move. So the points here are, there is always a question on the floor during the business session of the meeting. It starts with the committee report. All of those things are being debated. If you want to isolate one of them and focus conversation on the thing that became a pilot project, it's very useful to do that. Say, I want to, what do we say?
Pull the item.
Pull the item. Yeah, that's what we say. I forget the Robert's Rules thing, but there's such a thing. Pull the item for discussion. At that point, we're only going to discuss that one motion. Before that, we're discussing all the motions on the committee report. If someone pulls it, we're discussing only that item. And we're discussing whether to adopt it or not. So you're trying to convince people yes or no. If someone moves to amend it, we're only discussing that amendment until we decide whether we accept the amendment or not. Accepting the amendment doesn't accept the underlying motion, remember, because there might be subsequent amendments. When you want to go to a vote, you call the question. I think, does that help?
Yes.
Okay. So you can always talk about the motions that are in front of us, but you shouldn't waver and talk about something that's not about the motions. If you do, the chair ought to pull us back, and if the chair doesn't, you should say, point of order, what is the question that we're discussing? And if we get in the habit of understanding this, then we'll be able to may have more efficient meetings, more democratic meetings. You know, you'll be able to understand other things as well as we introduce them in the future.
Thank you, David. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. You can give him a little recognition there. Thank you, David.
Anyway, the final point here is that the majority of the 50 board members control what we're discussing at any moment through those procedures that I just described. The chair is not really deciding. We defer to the chair to make the decision for us, but we make the decisions through voting, and then we change direction through motions.
Thank you. Okay, so now, so David periodically will give us a little more information on parliamentary rules. Last month's meeting really got a little bit out of hand with all the different people doing different motions and not really knowing. So this is the reason why I asked David to please step up and give a little more information, because there are quite a few people that don't really know Robert's Rules of Order, right? So, and it's good for us to refresh our memories for those that do know Robert's Rules of Order. Lisa? Yeah, I think I have that also. I can reissue that as well, especially for the new members. I think it was something that I did give out as a handout at the new members meeting. For those that attended, they did receive that. So I'll make sure we generate some more copies of that. Thank you, Lisa. Okay, so we're going to move on now to our committee reports and voting on recommendations. So first, we did that was a part of my executive report. Parks and Recreation and Cultural Affairs and Waterfront. Trevor?
We did have one motion, resolution. Pier 36 is now serving as a garbage truck depot for Department of Sanitation. They moved 35 trucks through the area, so we wrote a resolution to support not only removal of these trucks from this area, but also to address the current problems that exist from adding those trucks to that area. There was also a presentation by the Trust for Public Land and Niou by Design. They issued an RFP to come up with some ideas about stewarding East River Park. This came before Parks decided to change the plan and raise the park by 8 to 10 feet, but there was a bit of a confusion at the meeting. It was just to the discussion by the Trust for Public Land and Rebuilt by Design was just to talk about what they think might be a good way forward for stewarding the park. Just two announcements also, and I know the public officials announced the December 10th meeting for the resiliency plan for the East Side Coastal Resiliency. There's also a second meeting added, that is December 11th. It will be at Hunter Brookdale Rotunda at 425 East 25th Street between First Avenue and FDR Drive. The time is 6:30 to 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m., and that's for people who cannot make the 10th meeting. Any questions? Also, there is no, well, as of now, there is no Parks meeting for committee members.
The location.
The location for the December 11th meeting is 425 East 25th Street between First Avenue and FDR Drive. It is, I'm just reading because I don't know this location. It's at Hunter Brookdale Rotunda, if anyone's familiar with that.
It's like 24th Street.
The second meeting was just announced today. We do not have handouts for the first meeting, but it will be on, Susan can email or put it on the website.
That was done mostly for Board 6, right? Because
Yes, that's mostly for Board 6, but
same thing as our meeting on the 11th.
yes, but I know there's one residential complex that can't make it because they have a board meeting that night.
I just
So.
want to let people know. Please, if I don't send it out, please send me an email reminding me, and I'll send it out to everybody. I'll send it out for both meetings, but you should realize that they're the same meeting so that people can attend both. Or whatever, whichever way.
what she was indicating that the other portion of the ESCR is from 14th to 25th. They may focus a little bit more on that area, but it is a duplicate meeting since the majority of the change comes through the East River Park. Any more questions?
Thank you, Trevor. Landmarks? Oh, I'm sorry. Megan?
Eagerly waiting for the results. Congratulations to Alicia Lewis-Coleman.
Thank you.
30 out of 40 votes. David Ford, 38 out of 40 votes. Nancy Ortiz, 39 out of 40 votes. Clint Smeltzer, 39 out of 40 votes. Eric Diaz, 39 out of 40 votes. And Herman Hewitt, 38 out of 40 votes. Congratulations to our winners.
Thank you, everyone. I really greatly appreciate this opportunity to continue to serve you up until November of 2019. So this will be my official first year as elected into this position, as voted into this position. So thank you very much for those that voted for me. For those that did not, I'm sorry, we can have a conversation. It's okay. And I'm still, in need of your help always, and listening ears and advice from everyone. I know that nobody's perfect, right? And we all make mistakes, and we're all here to learn from each other and grow. And so I look forward to continue to grow as a leader and as a member of this community. So thank you. If anybody else wants to say anything from any of the executive officers want to say anything?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all. So now we're going to continue to go forward in our agenda. Landmarks?
Landmarks Committee approved 2 certificates of appropriateness. You really have to do this. It's going to be quick. Two relatively, in fact, completely non-controversial certificates of appropriateness. One for a building in the East 10th Street Historic District, and one for the Bialy-Stocker home on East Broadway. Any questions?
Can it be a nursing home again?
It's going to be a fancy condo.
Oh, good. We need more of those, right? That's what we need.
Thank you, Linda. Land use, zoning, and public and private housing.
We had a couple of votes that are pretty straightforward as enumerated on the vote sheet. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer. I also want to alert you to some old business. The language of the October approval for the application we voted on last month unintentionally omitted one of the 3 land use actions that were intended for approval. So under old business, we have rewritten the resolution that we all passed before and inserted the language, one of the 3 actions that was supposed to be part of the applications. It was, and those revisions are on page 6 and 7 of the vote sheet. They appear in italics and are underlined. It's simply the addition of approval of UDAA designation, which stands for Urban Development Action Area. So that's along with the 2 other land use actions that were already approved. It was just inadvertently left out. And that's it for the report. Any other questions?
Thank you, Mayfun. Economic development. Thank you, Megan. Health, seniors and human services, youth, education, and human rights.
Good evening, everyone. So tonight, from our committee, there are 3 motions to vote upon. 3 motions to consider. So the first one is a resolution to support Community Healthcare Network. Their health is on Essex Street. It's also called the Catherine Abadi Center, or was called the Catherine Abadi Center. So they're going to be displaced because of Essex Crossing. Essex Crossing is going to build there, and they will have to move. Their lease ends in 2021. So this is a resolution to support them staying in the community, and we're going to make I think, staying in the community and trying to make a best effort to have them stay in Community District 3. Their services and all of their programs are really very, very much needed. There are a couple of changes to be made in that resolution. So on page 9, in the third paragraph, we're going to make we want to make some changes that consolidate. It's very wordy right now. So we want to say that, therefore be it resolved, the FEIS obligated EDC to relocate CHN to a nearby facility if the Essex Street Crossing development terminates the CHN lease before 2021. CB3 believes EDC must fulfill this obligation regardless, period. Regardless of lease termination, period. And then all that other stuff we're just going to cross out.
What is the FEIS?
The final environmental impact statement.
Oh, that was never spelled out. We should spell it out. Oh, it is. Sorry, it is. Previously, it is parenthesized.
Question.
There was, it had to do with their lease renewal. When their lease ends and the development of Essex Crossing. So Essex Crossing, the whole building and development of it, it got delayed. It was much later. So it had to do with the, yes?
It's fine as it is, I believe.
Oh, it should be a whereas? Yes, that seems to be a little bit better. Yeah, so first it's a whereas, and the therefore is therefore CB3 believes that EDC should fulfill this obligation regardless of lease termination. But the wherefore is?
It's going to require more surgery if we do this. I don't know that there's a problem, truthfully, as written. Otherwise, you're going to have to basically restate the whole thing in the therefore. In that modified paragraph, it should just be, it's a typo basically, the word striking the street to Essex Crossing.
Essex Crossing. So we're going to strike out the word street because it's a typo, but leave the rest as it is? Okay, so then the last paragraph is, the very last paragraph. Be it further resolved. Right now it says, be it further resolved that CB3 emphasizes that it is of the highest priority that our community that CHN continues serving our underserved residents and this facility not be displaced due to new development. We want to say period and cross out the rest. The reason being that the new development that we are referring to is Essex Crossing. But we did vote for and fight for Essex Crossing as it is, so it might be a little contradictory to say that, to imply that it is further gentrifying our neighborhood. I mean, it does have some market rate housing, it does have some low-income housing, but nevertheless, we fought for it. We supported it, and we fought for what it is today, so we shouldn't. So the proposal is to cut that part out. Okay. All right, so the,
before you go to the other one, this is just a small sliver of a building at Stanton Street. You're building this other huge building. I don't see any reason why, for historical purposes, as well as maintaining those, that small building right there could not be taken out of the plan without affecting the whole Essex Street crossing. I'm just expressing what I see every day when I walk there, of this small area at Stanton Street, you know, that could remain here, even if it's just the historical purpose of saying this is what was left of the. I don't see what would be built here. I don't see what.
I was not involved in that, so somebody else would be able to address that.
I understand, but if anybody walk by here, they say you cannot build anything here.
No.
Say it's senior housing.
It's slated for senior housing.
Yeah.
Senior affordable housing.
Yeah, senior affordable housing.
Senior affordable housing. There was a rule on it from what I.
But that is been built. The senior affordable housing has been built.
Yeah. Okay, so the next, the next motion. So I think, okay, so the next motion that we will be considering from this committee concerns barrier-free living. You heard a couple of speakers here today at the public session. We are, the motion is to support a letter of support. You know, they drafted a letter that they want us to sign off on, is to support their proposal for the housing units on the property that they own. It's housing, supportive housing for, you know, disabled, homeless people. So they are applying for, you know, grants and tax credits. And so that's what it's for. Okay, and the third one is a resolution to, a resolution opposing the federal, this is related to immigration. The Trump administration has a proposal to, have anyone heard of public charge? There's a, when you apply to get a green card here, if you're already here, you have to show that you're not going to be dependent on the government, a public charge of the government. So right now there are only two different criterion. One is if you're on cash benefits, TANF, for example, or if you're on Medicaid funding, nursing home, you know, long-term institutional care. But they want to expand those benefits to include things like Medicaid, food stamps, Section 8 housing assistance, and Medicare Part D. So these are benefits for very low-income people, and it makes people choose between getting these essential benefits, or or getting a green card or applying for the green card. So we have, in our community, we have a lot of low-income people. We may have new immigrants, and we also have families who lived in households that have people of different immigration status. So it affects those families as well, and that's why we're doing this resolution. And if we pass the resolution, we would be able to submit public comments to the Federal Register. That's due on February 10th.
One point of information in there. You do mention Medicare Part D, but any senior citizen, anyone with Medicare, has to have Medicare Part D to get their prescription drugs. I think what you mean is Medicare Part D extra help. That's where people get government assistance to assist in paying for their prescriptions. So
before benefits are?
How is that fluctuating? Medicare Part D, extra help? Yeah, just the word extra help added. In all caps, or I mean,
Medicare Part D extra help.
Yeah, it's just the whole thing. That's the whole thing. That's how it's worded. That's the way the government works it.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, very good.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. SLA.
I'd like to call out Lisa for effectively refocusing the conversation on what is the question in front of us. Thank you, Lisa. That's how we can run efficient meetings.
So all the items that were approved or denied unless they agreed to stipulations, all those stipulations were submitted. So there aren't any amendments to any of the resolutions.
Thank you. Transportation.
So we actually had no motions, so there's not much of a report. Questions? All right.
Thank you. Baruch Bathhouse Task Force, the DIS has been removed. Request for expression has been released. So that what that means is now people can respond to it and say whether or not they would like to be interested in starting a project on the space at the Baruch Bathhouse. So that's what that means.
Where can that be found?
On their on Parks website. Yeah, on the Parks
website.
Yes, it's a Parks Department. It's not NYCHA property. Okay, so if you have big bucks. Okay, Charter Revision Task Force.
Thank you for re-electing me first vice chair. We do have a charter revision task force. The first thing is I know most of the board members probably got a email while you were here from Aldrin Vanilla, the deputy borough president. So there were term limits from the charter 2018 ballot provision that's on the ballot. And what's going to happen is anyone that's appointed like myself, reappointed, let's say if I'm reappointed, on April 1st, 2019, all of those individuals will have 4 two-year consecutive terms on the board. Anyone appointed on April 1st, 2010, that group of people will have 5 consecutive two-year terms. Huh? 2020, sorry, I'm half tired. And the reason they're doing it is to stagger it out. But what our task force is doing, first of all, if anybody wants any reference information, it's the charter 2019.nyc is the website, and they've put on a bunch of proposals. So what we're doing as a committee is we're going to be reviewing those proposals and see which one, as a task force, that we want to have commentary on. From my perspective, specifically things that impact the community board. If anyone's interested, please go to that charter 2019.nyc and let us know if you have any comments. I know one of the Asian organizations had a proposal that they did submit to us that we can consider, and we're also going to be looking at some of our previous resolutions, etc., to make sure that we have a voice. Lastly, we're going to be working with some of the other community boards throughout the city on this issue. Thank you.
Essex Crossing.
Hi there. So actually, I have a lot tonight, but I haven't reported in a long while. So I'll try to stick to things that may impact people in the community, and then, of course, things that just everyone is interested in because it's the things that we fight for on the board. So for the, there's a park on Site 5 that is being built, and that's probably going to be opening in the spring. Site 2, there's the housing lottery is underway. The movie theater that's there is going to be opening in February. Yeah. Okay, so Site 2 is the building that is on the corner of Delancey and Essex, sorry, on the southeast corner of Delancey and Essex. It's probably the biggest one that's there right now. And so, yeah, that's that. Site 5 is the one that was the first one that was actually the second building that opened, that has the Target and the Trader Joe's in it, and that there's a park behind that. So that's Site 5. I'm not going to throw all the sites right now, but there is tunnel work that's going on for the Market Line that's going to be stretching about 3 blocks across Broome Street, and that should have probably a 4-day closure of traffic on Norfolk Street in about a week. So if you're in the area, be prepared for that. For the Essex Street Market. So you may have seen in the news, maybe not, but the move of the current tenants to the new market space was pushed back, and the market vendors asked, well, if it's going to be pushed back to when they were proposing, they want to actually stay in their space for the holidays and then move in the spring, as well as move in at the same time that all the new vendors are moving as well. There was a planned phased-in move that everyone eventually felt that really was going to be disruptive for multiple reasons, and that everything should just happen all at the same time. So the new Essex Street Market in the new location is going to be opening in the springtime, and the current tenants have been given a 50% reduction in their rent until the move, which is something that the market vendors had said was really important to have, because it's a challenge doing business there with a lot of the foot traffic that's been dropping. Yep.
Did they get to be open in the holidays or no?
They will be open. The market's going to remain open during the holidays. They're also going to be doing a pop-up market down at the Seaport over the holidays. That's going to be free of charge to the vendors, and they're really excited about sharing the Essex Street Market love down there. And it's called a taste of Essex Street Market or something. I think that's what it's called. Could be called something else, but so already. The motion at the last meeting, we talked about the Community Health Network relocation. We reiterated the importance of this clinic to the community, and EDC is definitely aware of the importance of it and is still working to try to find some kind of resolution, and working closely with Susan and with Councilmember Chin's office. So hopefully there will be a good outcome for that. For the Market Line that I mentioned, there is a 90% commitment already for the 30 vendors that are going to be down there. The exciting news is that 70% are MWBE and 50% are from the Lower East Side as well. So that we consider to be really great, since it's it was one of our objectives. The truck deliveries that people have been complaining about, the trucks on Clinton Street, and that is something that the tenants are really trying hard to police. They understand the traffic congestion and the impact that it causes with the trucks, so they actually have people out there that are flaggers that are trying to get the trucks in and out of the bay as quickly as possible. They actually had, in the original design, they had a shorter bay, but then they increased the bay size, so it can accommodate fairly large trucks in there. And as long as they're being moved in and out, it shouldn't be a problem. But they are also, part of the problem is that DOT had put barricades up near the bay that was making it really hard for the trucks to turn, which was slowing it down. And so DOT has agreed to move that barricade to enable the trucks to park more easily. Grand Low Cafe, they had a graduation for their first cohort. So they had two groups of employees that were learning about the business and that graduated. I went to that event. It was on the really awful, snowy, rainy, whatever night that was, and they had a really great turnout, and it was really great to see. And then, so workforce. So this is something that we track workforce goals in the task force, and the developers have committed to these goals. In phase 1, they had to provide 1,000 months of employment to community members, and they beat that. There also have been 195 employees hired out of those people that worked throughout the construction, which is pretty amazing. They're not all working at obviously in any of the Essex properties, but they maybe got a job elsewhere. But it was a great opportunity for them to be able to launch from there. And then phase 2, the goal is to provide 600 months, and so far they have 61 months that they've provided. As far as permanent jobs in the community, Target did 6 outreach events to the community, and Lesson was providing candidates, and they weren't able to really they don't get clear numbers necessarily from Target, but I think, if I have my notes right, that they said that 30% of the workforce was from the Lower East Side. Trader Joe's also, they did 8 events and hired 20 Lesson referrals. And then there were also additional people from the community that were hired, but that didn't go through Lesson. And then Grand Street Settlement is going to have a hiring event for the Regal Cinemas. That date needs to be announced, but it should be very soon since the cinema's opening in February. So that's it. Any questions?
Any opening dates set for the plan?
Do I have that date? Yeah, stuff was pushed. You know what? I think I got an email on that, but I'll look right after this and see. Any other questions?
Regarding the loading zone for Trader Joe's, is that a 1 bay or 1 bay loading zone?
It's 1 bay.
Was there ever a design
I'll
for 2 bays?
No, sorry.
Off the record, you can ask questions.
Yeah, you can also, when I'm done, I'll come over to you and I'll answer any questions. Any board member questions? Herman?
I have a question and an observation. All these years we've been discussing this stuff, and I'm on the SLA committee, and I'm surprised at the amount of application for legal license that's going into that space there. I mean, review them and stuff, but that it never came to us that the fact that a lot of those businesses that is coming in needs legal license down there. And I hope we don't get too much more.
Are they beer and wine? They're beer and wine, right?
There's a couple of.
I mean, because we did have a limit for the liquor licenses that we said that we wanted there, and I don't believe we've gone over that. But Alex.
So we've heard.
Go ahead.
So we've heard so far 6 beer wine applications for kiosks or small storefronts. market line, below ground area. My suspicion is, I had to clarify it, is they said they had to open a kiosk so that they would fulfill the New York State food service requirements for their business, because they didn't have that component at all in their business. And now I have on my agenda for next month a kiosk with a full liquor license, and a kiosk with a beer and wine license, and also the bowling alley, which is going to have a full liquor license. I'm expecting to hear at ICP, which is a 3-story venue, which also has a outdoor space, which is an event space, which is going to open on Ludlow Street between Brewer and Delancey. That's a photography studio, but it's going to have 2 floors that function, 2 floors and a rooftop that functions as an event space. So the photography space. So that's not part of the actual Essex Crossing Development Center at Delancey, but considered part of the Essex Crossing Development. So I'm expecting to hear, we're expecting to hear that. We're expecting to hear 2 anchor stores with full liquor licenses for the market that's above ground, and we've also had to hear a full liquor license for the Essex because it was displaced, because it didn't come to any agreement, which is an 18-year restaurant, didn't come to any agreement with Essex Crossing for space of its own, so it had to move across the street to a location that was unlicensed, so we had to approve that one also, which I consider part of the Essex Crossing development.
Yeah, there's a lot of commercial.
We've had to figure out how to accommodate that business that certainly has been a community member a long time and doesn't have space on its own.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of commercial. As I said, there's, there's about, let's say 30 or 40 vendors in the market line alone, and then there's the Essex market as well, and then the restaurants. So I think what I would like to do is go back and look at what our guidelines were, or what came out of the ULURP, and just see how close or far we are from that. So yeah.
Could you bring those numbers to us?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Dominic. Lower Manhattan Coastal Resiliency Task Force, Nancy.
Nothing to report. And I want to say thank you to everybody, because this is actually my first real election as well. And I'm pleased that I approved to 39 of you. That's the majority. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Any old business to report? Any old business?
I just want to say something real quick.
Yes, thanks.
So in regards to the Two Bridges application, the city planning vote is scheduled for December 5th. All of the official Community Board 3 work is done. We don't have any more official role to play, but between now and the commissioner's vote, there's still some time for anybody out there who wants to do any personal lobbying or talking to the press or bringing attention to this issue to a wider audience and to the people who will be voting. Thank you. Yes? Yes, the final environmental impact statement was issued. It's right, and it's on our website. It's on the city planning website. It's on the city planning website. Right, right.
Thank you. We'll put it on the website and then in a second. What do you think people can do between now and that next Wednesday?
I'm saying the community board has finished our official duties, but individuals are free to do what they wish to call attention to the issue.
Yes. In response to that, I couldn't resist, so I called in and I got a line with Brian Letter, but the Amazon happened, so Two Bridges was left out. But if you guys call in and there are 2 or 3 of us before December 5, maybe we'll get the air. There was interest, but then Amazon, took all the air out of any conversation.
The reason I'm asking is because I think most people know that the written comment time is over, the oral comment time is over. So I don't know if people know what it is that they can do at this particular
this point. I'm just saying that there's time before the final vote if any individuals want to do something on their own volition.
Thank you. Okay, new business? Any new business? Yes.
All right. Did people notice that we actually took 2 votes tonight already? Yeah? Okay. I didn't object at the time because they were both just phraseology, which was fine, I think. But there were 2 amendments that were put forth by May in her report. And I want all board chairs, all committee chairs, to make it clear what you're doing and say, I have a friendly amendment here and this is what it is. It's an amendment. You guys get to vote on it. Okay? We need to make that very clear if we're going to be democratic here. And then, because it was non-controversial, we can't make eye contact with all 50 people to make sure that we're all cool, right? So what she'll say then is, if there's no objection, we'll accept this. Okay, it's amended. If there is an objection, then we'll talk about it. Why is it a problem? You know, we'll debate a little bit and we'll come to an actual vote on the thing. But I want all committee chairs to make it very clear. I have a friendly amendment. Here it is. Is that acceptable? Are there any objections? Good. It's accepted. And then the other thing that we do, we never took any roll call votes on committee reports. We used to do that up until 10 years ago. Every single committee report would be a separate roll call vote. And then we had an innovation where at the end of each committee report, the board chair would say, I'm going to roll this into the calendar agenda. And if nobody objected, because nobody wanted to vote right then, it was done. And at the very end, then we would vote on everything at once. What has happened over the years is that we don't even say that anymore. We just only take one vote at the very end. And I kind of think we should be a little more formal about that, because technically we should be voting after every single committee report. Because that's when it's top of mind about what you just heard people saying. And, you know, maybe you do want to remember to vote no on such an item. But what the chair should, I think, continue to do is say, if there's no objection, I'm going to roll this into the calendar agenda. And at the very end of the night, we'll just have one long vote. What? No, the floor needs to understand procedures to follow, and it's for your benefit to know. Well, what do you mean going backward, Val? I'm sorry.
At this time, I have a question, Trustee Meyer. I see your hand, Lisa. I see your hand, Lisa.
It was back to you what you just explained. So when someone makes an amendment and someone has an objection, what is the verbiage for making it a discussion? Can you share that with everybody?
I'd like to discuss it.
No, you say all. No, after the objection is specific rules,
No.
so that way it is brought to the full board to discuss for a more at length to vote on it again.
This thing about a friendly amendment is a shortcut. If we didn't allow that shortcut, then we would always make the amendment. Is there any debate? Okay, now we have a vote, and that takes quite a lot of time. And so if it's something that is inconsequential, like a better phrase for a clause, like what we had, we do it as a friendly amendment, and that's a shortcut. So May believes that nobody's going to object. So she says it's a friendly amendment. If there are no objections, I'll accept the amendment. At that moment, all you have to do is say, I think we should discuss this. You know, the floor is open for anyone to say, no, we should discuss that one. That's all you have to do. But generally, if someone has made an amendment and it's clearly a consequential change, like the thing I had earlier, example, it should be a pilot project, there will always be a debate right then on that. And if there's an amendment, we must focus on the amendment until we vote right then on the amendment. The other thing I was saying was the final vote on all the amendments, all the motions we typically do at the end of the meeting. So 2 different things.
What I was talking about was something that we say, correct me if I'm wrong, we say a bullet for discussion.
Oh, yeah.
Then
Typically, okay, because you did this last time, you wanted to pull it for a discussion. Typically, right then, we go into the discussion on it, and the board chair should make it clear, because I think the board chair can read the room. The board chair would say, okay, we'll discuss that item 5 now only. We're discussing item 5. Or the board chair might say, okay, we'll do that after the rest of the discussion. But the board chair should make it clear right then. And so if you've called for a separate discussion, you should make sure you understand from the board chair whether the discussion starts now or whether it starts later. But typically it happens right then.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Dave. Yes.
I just want to make a quick statement, 20 seconds, if that's all right?
Okay.
I'm Paul DiRienzo. I just returned from St. Mark's Church, where there was a memorial for a young man in his early 20s who died by his own hand, Gaia Marcello. Some of you might even know him. It's one of many cases in the last year or two where this has happened in our community, and I just want us to keep a moment of warmth in our heart for those passed, but also to redouble our efforts to reach out for more in the way of dealing with mental health problems that really exist in our community, and which we're not doing enough if young people are moved to take their lives and there's no real alternative or way to deal with that. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We have to do our final vote, and okay, so Clint and
David Adams. You're on. Jeff Stack. Yes. Dominic Burke. Yes. Lee Berman. Yes. Victoria Rivera. Lisa Burris.
Yes, abstain, no, any miscellaneous rules is necessary.
Carla Chan. Yes. John Chu. Yvonne Zhang. Yes. David Crane. Yes. Paul DiRienzo. Yes. Eric Davis. Yes. Daniel Gibson. Yes. Dee Johnson. Yes. Alistair Conrad. Yes. Cheryl Fennessy. Yes. David Ford. Yes. Ryan Dillon. Yes. Deborah Glass. Herman Niou. Yes. Trevor Holland. Yes. Linda Jones. Yes. Valentine Jones. Yes. Megan Joy. Yes. Lisa Kaplan. Yes. Olivia Kasi. Yes. Joseph Kearns. Yes. May Lee. Yes. Alicia Lewis Coleman.
yes.
Luis Lopez. Michael Rubio. Yes. Jeremy Martin. Yes. Antonio Martinez. Alexander Lozano.
Yes.
Nancy Ortiz.
Yes and no to item 3 and part.
Carolyn Radcliffe.
Yes.
Damaris Reyes.
Yes.
Richard Robiak. Yes. Robert Chattel. Larissa Scheinberg.
Yes.
Clint Smeltzer. Yes. Anisha Stephen.
Yes.
Sandra Strucker.
Yes.
Josephine Velez. Rodney Washington. Yes. Kathleen Webster.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor? Thank you.